Hello, welcome to Japan Seikatsu. I want to give you 7 quick tips today that'll help you pass the JET program interview so that you can pick yourself up one of these, which is the free flight ticket you get to Japan if you pass the interview. I've kept mine. This is from July 2010, all these years, because it's an experience that changed my life. First thing is to think about the problem that the Japanese government is trying to solve when preparing for this interview, which is hiring ALTs that break contract, aren't engaged with the students, aren't engaged with the school, aren't engaged with the community, aren't a good cultural fit. So you want to make sure that you demonstrate through your answers that you're both dependable and that you're flexible, and that this is a program that you're going to really invest yourself into and hopefully stay for 3, 4, 5 years. Okay, number 1, don't be late. It's so simple, but it's so important. Don't be late. A lot of research says that people form their opinion about you within the first 5 minutes. So if you're not even there, you've already lost. I'm actually embarrassed to admit this, but I was late to my JET interview. I lived 1 hour away, and my interview was in Washington, D.C., and I put in a 1-hour buffer to make sure that I was there on time. I got lost. It was everything that could go wrong did go wrong. I got lost. I couldn't find the parking. I had trouble finding the embassy. So I arrived, I think it was 5 or 10 minutes after I was supposed to, and I had been running and I was sweating and I was terrified, and I had prepared so much for this interview. I was so disappointed in myself, but by the grace of God, I got lucky, and the interviews had been running late. So my interview had been pushed back 30 minutes. So I had some time to calm down, wipe the sweat off, and go into the interview. But please don't make the mistake that I made. I got very lucky. Whatever you do, don't be late. Okay, tip number 2, don't speak Japanese. This is the JET program, the Japan English teaching program. There's no need to impress anybody. If you're not asked, you don't need to prove your Japanese level, so don't use it in the interview. Of course, if you are asked, please do speak it. I was asked in my interview because I had studied Japanese in university and I had studied abroad in university. I was asked, and I had taken a 4-year break from my Japanese studies, so what came out was very rusty. But don't do it unless you're asked. Okay, third tip is to dress for success. Make sure that you're in a suit, you're in a tie. Japan is a conservative society, so I wouldn't show up to the interview in jeans and a t-shirt. Tip number 4 is to make sure that you know your statement of purpose inside and out, and that you have talking points to it. So there should be some key themes in there about how you're going to add value to the program, about how your experience is going to add value to the program. And remember what I said earlier about you want to be flexible and dependable. So pull stories out of the statement of purpose to demonstrate those points, and to demonstrate that you're the type of ALT that's going to be there for multiple years. And also be prepared to answer any questions that you may get about your statement of purpose. They asked about mine, and I'm sure they'll ask about yours. Be prepared for the out of left field question, and I think the reason they're asking you this is to test how do you react under pressure. You're in the interview, you're nervous, they ask you a question you don't anticipate, how do you respond to it? And more than the answer itself, I think what they're really looking for is, how did this person handle a difficult situation? So keep that in the back of your mind. When you're thrown the question, take a few seconds to process it, and then do the best to answer it. In my statement of purpose, I'd spoken about an interest, a passion for Japan and for the Japanese politics and economy. So they asked me, you know, who's the current prime minister, and do you know who the last prime minister was? They, as I said earlier, they tested my Japanese. They also asked, I spoke about what a great relationship I had with my host family. I lived with a host family in Kanazawa when I was a student. And they asked, have you written your host family recently? And I hadn't. So I truthfully said, no, you know, I haven't, but I'm very much looking forward to when I, you know, get to Japan of visiting them. So you may get thrown some difficult questions. That's okay. Take your time and make sure that you answer to the best of your ability and keep your calm. Tip number 6 is practice. This is so simple, but it's so important, and it's going to be your best weapon against your nervousness. If you're fully rehearsed, you're going to go in there confident, and you're going to be able to handle any question that's thrown at you. So I would practice, I would write down the questions that you expect people to ask of you, and I would ask a friend or a colleague or a teacher to ask those questions of you. And when you provide them with the list of questions, don't have them ask those questions verbatim, but have them take the question and ask it in their own words. So if you get used to just answering the question exactly as you've written it, you're thrown a little bit off when the question comes at you and it's from a 5-degree different angle. So you want to make sure that you've been asked these similar questions in multiple different ways so that you're flexible and that you can naturally answer them. Make sure that you practice for the interview. Okay, tip number 7 is to ask questions. Just as you're being interviewed, you're doing the interviewing as well. Do you want to spend the next year to 5 years of your life doing this program? Or here's a panel of 3 people that have a lot of experience. Often one of them was an ex-JET. It's a great opportunity to ask, you know, what was the favorite part of the JET program for you? What was a difficult part of the JET program for you? What was the biggest surprise for you? The worst answer to the question, do you have any more questions, is no. So make sure you come into that interview and you've got some well thought out questions in the back of your mind. I wish you guys the best of luck. The JET program is such a wonderful program, and I feel so grateful that I got to do 3 years in Shikoku on the JET program. So I'm wishing you guys the very best. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments section. I'll do my best to answer. And be sure to click like and subscribe to Japan Seikatsu, where we discuss everything and anything related to Japan. Thank you.